Ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, this podcast is brought to you by Final Form Supplements. Final Form Supplements is a supplement brand with honesty labeling. So the labeling in supplements is Wild Wild West. Sometimes labels aren't honest. They have things in there that's on in there. We don't have to worry about that with Final Form Supplements. We got everything you need from protein powder, creatine, skin care, soap for your skin, handcrafted soap, and we have all kinds of things. Go to finalformsubs.com, that's SUPPS, finalformsubs.com, use promo code COACHSTRIB, all caps, no space, get 10% off your order, and make sure you like, comment, subscribe on whichever video you're watching here at Ivy Talks Podcast Network, and enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the WNBA coverage. We have a lot to go over this past week in the regular season, as well as the All-Star versus Team USA here in the WNBA. First of all, if you're new here, welcome. Go ahead and subscribe so you can get up to date with all things we have here at Ivy Talks Podcast Network, as well as the episode drops for the WNBA coverage. So we're going to start off like we always do. We're going to start off with the standings. So let me bring up my notes. For the East, we got New York Liberty sitting at 1, Connecticut Suns at 2, Indiana Fever at 3, Chicago Sky at 4, Atlanta Dream at 5, Washington Mystics at 6. In the West, we have Minnesota Lynx at 1, Seattle Storm at 2, Las Vegas Aces at 3, the Phoenix Mercury at 4, LA Sparks at 5, and the Dallas Wings at 6. Now we're going to get into some of the leaders or stat leaders for the W. Points per game, we got Aja Wilson at 27.2. Got a pretty good gap between Kaylee Copper sitting there at 23.2. Rebounds per game, we have Aja Wilson at 12 rebounds per game, and right behind her is Angel Reese at 11.9. So it's going to be a dogfight for the rebound champ for the W this season. Assists per game, no surprise there. We got Caitlin Clark at 8.2. Rearing up right behind her, we got Alyssa Thomas for the Connecticut Suns sitting there at 7.6. And steals per game, Enrica Ogunbowale at 2.7. Nafisia Collier at 2.2, sitting there right behind her. And blocks per game, we have Aja Wilson. So now you guys might have noticed from last episode, we got some movement going on here. So in the East, the Liberty are kind of solidifying their spot in the number 1 spot. In the West, they are 3 games ahead of the Connecticut Suns. It was a game, half a game here and there. Now they're winning the head-to-head matchups when they're playing against Connecticut Suns. And they're also just going on like little win streaks. And while Connecticut Suns are still doing well, they're starting to fall more games behind, sitting there at 3 games behind. The Chicago Skies are keeping it close with the Indiana Fever. They are 1 game behind each other, so 1 game difference. So at any given moment, they can switch back and forth, kind of how they've been doing earlier on. In more recent weeks, Fever has stayed ahead of them, but earlier on, there was a lot of back and forth. Now, but it has fairly, for the most part, been 1 or 2 games difference between them in the East. In the West, the Minnesota Lynx take back the number 1 spot from the Las Vegas Aces, who had it last week. But they take back the number 1 spot in the West. Aces drop to the 3rd spot from number 1, but it is a 1 game difference between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So between the Minnesota Lynx, the Seattle Storm, and the Las Vegas Aces, it is a 1 game difference. So we're going to have an absolute interesting dogfight there as we get back from the Olympic break on who's going to take that number 1 spot in the West. Shout outs. We got a good list of shout outs. And then after that, we're going to go into the All-Star versus Team USA. Quick shout-outs. Caitlin Clark sets the WNBA record for 19 assists in 1 game. She sets the franchise record, which was 17 in 1 game. Not just for rookies, she set the WNBA record. Franchise record at 17, the WNBA record at 19 assists per game with 24 points. So she's scoring and she's distributing the ball. Shout out to Caitlin Clark. Natasha Cloud moves to 12th and the all-time assist list for the WNBA. Shout out Natasha Cloud. Aja Wilson, last week we talked about how she was moved up to 4th for the Las Vegas Aces franchise, 4th in steals. Now she's moved up to 3rd in steals. She's going to continue to move up with just her athletic ability to not only block, rebound, and score, but to also steal the ball. Next we have, oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher this name. I am sorry, but Nika Ogwumike. Nika Ogwumike. I think I'm saying that. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that. I apologize. But I'm pretty sure her first name's Nika. She moves to 12th all-time scoring with the Seattle Storm. Next, we have shout out Kennedy Clark. She scores 34 points in the win over the Aces. I think that's one of the games that Aces kind of wish they could get back. Chicago Skies, Aces were the favorite. Aces is a better team, better all around on paper, and just generally playing better this year. But that's just that one game that they lost. The Chicago Skies really showed up. Kennedy Clark played phenomenal with 34 points in that win. Sabrina and Osku, 30 points in the wins over the Suns. That head-to-head, I believe that was the game I was watching when I recorded last week. She scored 30 points in their win over the Connecticut Suns. Another head-to-head matchup that they are dominating with that series between them and the Connecticut Suns. 30 points there, another 30-point game. And then shout out Rachel Benham for their Connecticut Suns. She hits 8 threes on 11 shots in the win over the Phoenix Mercury with a total of 24 points, and I believe she came off the bench and just absolutely tore it up from the 3-point line. So shout out to Rachel Benham. Now, getting into which I really liked how they did this year for the All-Star game. They had a team of All-Stars and they had the USA Olympic team, and it was the All-Star team versus Team USA, the team that's going to represent the WNBA in the Olympics. And the All-Star team beats Team USA 117 to 109. Top USA team performer is Breanna Stewart, 31 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. The All-Stars top performer is Arike Ogunbowale at 34 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists. And she not only does she win MVP, the All-Star Game MVP, she also set records for most points in a quarter, 21 points in the third quarter. Most points in a half, 34 points in the second half. She started the game off rough. The first 20 minutes, they play 10-minute quarters for those that don't know, instead of 12-minute quarters like they do in the NBA. For the first 20 minutes, she was 0-2, so she had 0 points in the first half. Second half, she scores 34 points. And also scores the most points in a single game at 34. So she sets the single quarter record, the single half record, and the single game record for the All-Star game, and tags along that the MVP. So moving forward, the Olympics start this Saturday, so there aren't any games. The next game is going to be August 17th, so we have a big break with the regular season. I do plan on doing updates and weekly videos on coverage of the Olympics as well as the NBA coverage. I've got to talk to Calvin, my co-host for the NBA coverage, on if we're going to be able to do that with scheduling. But getting coverage of the men's USA Olympic team for the NBA coverage, as well as coverage for the women's USA Olympic team for the WNBA coverage. So you guys stay tuned to that. We'll cover the Olympic play from the W. And appreciate you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you guys can stay up to date. And we'll catch you guys next week.